It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. It's Feedback Friday, and it's Feedback Friday at the end of a very, very tiring week. Um, there's so much to get to. I don't quite know how to prioritize it, so I'm just gonna leap right in. It's gonna be more general stuff as opposed to comment reading. I only have one straight up comment. I'm going to read part of it. Is I'm having problems speaking because I am so exhausted and stressed out. There was a boss fight preview that was posted to Patreon this week. If you want to see it, if you want to be part of that process, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK. I should make this clear. It's boss fight episode 2. This has been a rough week for me. Last week's start ended rough. A friend of mine died. We had a health scare with a cat. It's the 1 year anniversary of my stepfather's death. It's also a 1 year anniversary of me being profoundly, the only way you can really describe it is workplace abuse, working a trade show. And I want to use that to kind of segue into what happened with the Ubisoft Forward thing yesterday. That was quite a discussion on Twitch, to the point that people were being so savage about the problems Ubisoft is facing internally. I had to ask them to knock it off because it was actually bothering me as somebody who's been the subject of workplace bullying in the gaming industry. The problem for me is it was other women that started it, and then of course it goes up the food chain, and everybody but the guy who makes the final call is like, yeah, this is bullshit, but the guy who makes the final call is like, no, if they do it again, we'll do something then. And then they do it again. If they do it again, we'll do something then. And they do it again. Yeah, if they do it again, they just forget that they said something before and they kick the can down the field. Is that right? No. Is it worth jeopardizing other people's jobs? No. My attitude is, if the company wants to let a member of their staff abuse people internally, it's a small company, people aren't going to want to work for them. There's other opportunities in that space. I moved on to other opportunities that treat me better. That's how capitalism works. And I know that people care very deeply about the stories that came out of what was going on at Ubisoft. I think it's very good that gamers care so passionately about the treatment that people experience on the job. The two things to remember: one is it wasn't company-wide. Certain projects were awful. Others, and I've talked to people internally, and this is the part of the story that I don't feel has been well reported at all, that it wasn't a consistent experience. There are plenty of people, women, minorities, I air quote that because I don't like the term minority, people of color, but you can't say non-white because that's normalizing whiteness, so there's no good word that doesn't offend somebody. I guess, racialized people are probably the best, is probably the most accurate term as far as I'm concerned, but people don't like that either. But, I know people who have very good experiences at Ubisoft and have never had a problem, or they had a problem and it was solved. And the reporting on what's going on at that company has made it seem endemic within the company, and it was really just certain veins. And I don't expect the public to understand completely because, as somebody who's just plays games, you're not responsible for knowing about an internal corporate structure. But the fact that they are at the point where they're actually running things during Ubisoft Forward, saying, come work with us, even if you're not really a gamer, please. I felt bad for them, and I'm like, oh, gee, that's probably going to feel like a real kick in the teeth to all the women who are passionate about games, who have applied in the past for jobs at Ubisoft, myself included. Um, you know, I think I might have misspoke there, but women, racialized people, women who are racialized people, people who are, not cisgender, all that stuff, people who are considered, somehow marginalized. I know plenty of people, like myself included, who have applied. We didn't even get our response, or we got a rejection. So this whole idea, please come work for us. Like, why don't you go back through the people who have previously applied and contact them and make them an offer now? Just saying. That's a better thing to do than go, please come and work for us, even if you're not really a gamer. And this isn't sour grapes. It's not a good fit for me anymore. I'm just saying, I know, like, I just called bullshit on that segment of UB Forward really, really hard. Now, there was some great content in UB Forward. There was some less great content in UB Forward. And the problem is that the less great content was on top of the really good content. They would have done better just letting the game speak for themselves than that awful, boring, anesthetized running commentary they had over the gameplay footage, except for that lady who did the Prince of Persia Sands of Time remaster. She was perfect. She was authentic. She seemed proud of working on the game. She was excited. You believed, she thought what she was doing was good. What she was working on was good. And her excitement was infectious. Where was that the rest of the presentation? Like, they had a guy, for people who didn't watch it or didn't stay for the post stream, they had a guy on, I don't know what it was called. It was basically Murder Ball from Alita. But they had a guy color commentating his own match in like recorded. He was talking over recording and his team lost. And there was very little excitement in what he was recording. And I get that COVID is making things a mess. And I get that, they've got internal strife right now. But if a AAA game company can't do better than that, don't do it. Just go based on your mass marketing. Show people's pets. I don't know what they're doing. I said this and somebody on Twitch said it was a good thing, so I'm going to repeat it kind of quicker. I don't think they lack confidence in their projects. Watch Dogs Legion looks super ambitious, and if it works, it will be a very exciting game with the teams and the different people you can recruit. And I'm sitting here going, oh man, how would that work? If that works the way I'm imagining it's going to work, that'll be really exciting. And this is just one example of how they shot themselves in the foot in this presentation, because it looks cool. But then they did something very not cool, and it took away from the cool. First of all, they wedged it in the middle of the presentation, which means it's guaranteed to be forgotten by the end. And yeah, they did a recap, but still, the middle is the part people remember. The beginning, people remember the end. Like, I remember Brawlhalla and Just Dance, because I had to watch a half hour of Brawlhalla before we got to the meat of the presentation, right? And I remember the guinea pig dressed up like the dog from Far Cry 6 and the shrimp, because that was off the top, right? Closer to the top, I think. Maybe it's just animals, so I remember. But Watch Dogs Legion was dead in the middle, so it didn't have the kickoff spot, and it didn't have the closer spot. Those are usually where your big tent poles are. But they weren't. And the game is out in October, end of October. Maybe it's going to be pushed. It's a little late to be pushed at this point. I was expecting more hype from a game that's out in a month and a half. And then at the end, they're like a familiar face, cheeseball, raza raza. And it's his name, Aiden Pierce, the playable character from the first Watch Dogs game, available as DLC with purchase of a season's pass. And I immediately went, well, I won't be playing that. I'm not buying a season's pass. And it just went, like, people were saying, I'm concerned about microtransactions. I'm concerned about games as service. Well, I was going, this looks really good. And then Ubi just gave them cause for concern. Like, if you're going to do that, if you're going to market something as part of a season's pass, you do that after the game's released. You don't do that in the preamble to the game, especially with a character that wasn't terribly likable to begin with. And, the first Watch Dogs game was an interesting experiment, but certainly not the cohesive experience at Watch Dogs 2. See what I mean? It's just a shining example of, it doesn't seem like the marketing. I described it as, the people who make Ubisoft's games are cool. They are legit cool people. Like, you walk in that building and it doesn't feel like a game studio. It's like, these people are cool. No insult to game devs. You know what I mean, right? I love you guys. I work in game dev, right? But these are cool people. And they've really got, like, the finger on the pulse of culture. And, it's a dynamic place. And then you get into PR. And Ubi's PR people used to be really cool. They're not cool anymore. And you can tell. And so PR now is a bunch of people who have to ask other people what's cool. And then they just, like, mimic. They try to copy cool instead of intrinsically knowing what's cool. And that's what's going on with the marketing. A sliver of content for Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Like, again, this game is out in the fall. It's holiday this time. They are going to have to compete for people's dollars with not only the new consoles, which always hurt current gen game sales because people are saving up their pennies, right? We don't have pennies in Canada anymore, just it's figures. But also, you got Cyberpunk coming out. And yeah, okay, Legion comes out 3 weeks before Cyberpunk, but Watch Dogs Legion only comes out 3 weeks before Cyberpunk, right when the Cyberpunk hype starts ramping up, right? Like, you gotta be competitive. And like I said at one point during the stream, this is weaker than the Raptors' offense has been in the bubble season, which I love my Raptors, but it's true. This is what happens when companies are under this scrutiny and there's a lot of internal strife. And there are very, very talented, very good people who continue to work at Ubisoft. The stuff that's been in the press of late is one part of the experience, and it's real, it's factually reported. People had horrible experiences. And as somebody who has gone through that too, I can relate, and they have the absolute right to feel some vindication and validation. But the people who are continuing to work there who didn't have similar experiences also deserve to work in an environment without toxicity. And this is where the pile-on is hurting the very people that people are outraged on behalf of, right? And this is where the snotty responses to Yves Guillemot's video before Ubisoft Forward come in. I actually thought his statement, it was certainly better than the shareholders call he did a few months ago when it was in the middle of it, and I think he was still getting his head around it. I give him credit for being unequivocal with his apology. It wasn't, I apologize if anyone was offended, which people do in the media all the time. I apologize to those who were hurt. That's a good apology, right? You know, he pulled the people didn't uphold whatever. I don't again, I don't think that a graduate program is the best way to recruit AAA talent. Now, on the one hand, hey, I teach, like I lecture at a college. I like the fact that the students I'm teaching are gonna get a leg up because hey, there's a Ubisoft Toronto Studios, so Sheridan College is I for selfish reasons I'm happy about that because the wisdom I am imparting is gonna go in there. Ha! Ubisoft PR, you tried to keep me out. You're not gonna keep me out. That was a joke. But for all the people who have been toiling away, making apps for corporate stuff and working at indie companies, it makes it appear that people fresh out of school are going to have a leg up on the people who have been toiling in, lower paying, less secure, long houred, jobs to get some of those resume builders. Just because they graduated before a whole bunch of people got harassed. That's a messaging problem. Now, it's still something. I thought the way he handled the Black Fist in one of their mobile games, he could just shut up, let the scandals burn out, and that's what a lot of executives would do in his place. Trust me. It's like, just let it burn out. People are going to hate you no matter what. The EA approach, the Activision approach, they hate us no matter what, so don't make a statement. You'll only add more fuel to the fire. That's the correct response in terms of crisis management of this kind. Just keep making your stuff. People will come back. Either he was advised differently or he just felt, and the couple of times I've met him in person, the couple of times I've talked to him, he's exactly the way you see in those videos, only like happier and nicer and OG whiz and oh wow. I think he feels sincerely bad about what happened. And if I were him, I'd feel like I was really clueless. And if he is the person that I got the sense he was, and I have a pretty good track record about this, I think part of the reason he made the statement was not just because he had to, but because he wanted to. Because I think that Ubisoft's commitment to that sort of diversity is real. And I think they were doing it before it was trendy because they're not an American company. They're a French company and with major studios in Canada, And again, I've heard mixed things. I've heard some people had absolutely wonderful experiences at Ubisoft. I've heard people who say, they were harassed and set up to fail and, they tried to report and weren't listened to. It's a mixed bag, right? Which you would expect at a company that large. Now, clearly they have to do better. Again, they're just the ones that got caught. I mean, Naughty Dog has 70% staff turnover, and that isn't nearly the scandal that this was. Something's wrong with that. That's an indication of a greater sickness in the industry that we have to confront. And I know a lot of gamers are like, I don't know what to do, because if I don't buy the game, then that just means people get fired. But if I do buy the game, I feel like I'm supporting a company that doesn't deserve my money. And it's tough because I can tell you, based on that standard, nobody deserves your money. EA and Activision are just as bad. EA has so many workplace problem scandals that it's white noise now. Activision, just I don't know if internally it's the same way. They were such dicks to me for a decade. Every trade show, just a bag of assholes, except for Skylanders. The Toys for Bob guys were fantastic. But the major franchises couldn't give a shit. So I don't buy that UB is uniquely bad. I know I've said this before. I'm saying it again because this is not to defend them. As I'm saying, they should have done better. I'm just saying, you think they're bad? Holy fuck. Hold on to your butts, strap in. And a lot of people are saying that, oh, he did this. This is a PR move. If it's a PR move, it's bad PR to do it at this time. Because people are tuning in to see the games they want to see. He is calling attention to this stuff. To me, you release a video like that now because you want the maximum number of people to see it. You want people to pay attention. They are robbing from their own news cycle to get this message out. That is an act of contrition, not an act of, oh, cover your ass. The cover your ass move at this point is to say nothing. Again, I repeat. So take that for what it's worth. And this is the second last thing. I want to get all this out before I get to the comment because this stuff is important. Things are really tense right now. Not just because of COVID, but because there's a U.S. election that we still have 2 more months to go before there's a decision. If only 2 months. We could have delayed results. But the rhetoric coming out of that election is no matter who wins, like half of the country is going to think the world is ending and that's it, they're doomed. The rhetoric is totally irresponsible in terms of keeping the peace. And it's sort of an unescapable reality of American politics right now. Everybody, and it's trickling in up here and it pisses me off. Like, can we close the border to U.S. political influence as well as non-essential travel too? No? Yeah, right. They keep hiring U.S. consultants. But it's affecting everybody. It's affecting everyone the world over. Everyone is just tense. And this is making it very difficult to have discussions. And some very good discussions are being had, and I feel like they're getting lost in the drama. And I think that they're getting lost in the drama. And one of them I'm gonna touch on for next week because I thought it was such a fascinating conversation. It stayed with me on the issue of Senran Kagura, I guess, and censorship and the position Sony's in, and so on and so forth. I'll touch on that next week. But I want to know what you guys want to do about these tensions. Because I admit, 2 days ago, I was this close to going, I am not going to do any more YouTube videos except for Boss Fight and the Patreon stuff until this US election is over. I just cannot take people having such a hair trigger right now that they're reading in and missing stuff and freaking out. And in a lot of cases, it's nobody's fault. It's just in the atmosphere right now. But that would kill the momentum on my channel, right? I'm in a no-win situation right here. It's not comfortable for me. I know it's not comfortable for a great many people out there. So I'm wondering if anybody has any suggestions about what to do about it. I actually kicked a guy from comments because he wasn't commenting on the videos. He was commenting on tweets I made. It was a tweet I made about EA putting Colin Kaepernick in Madden as a free agent. And he went on about my shitty political opinions. And it's this isn't about the video. And he's been doing it for a while. He's got fucking Walter White from Breaking Bad as his icon. And I'm if you want to watch a video, it's fine. But no, I talked to some people. I don't ban people on the regular, and I always announce when I do, so there's no conspiracies. Nobody thinks they've been banned. I always announce it. But I talked to some people who I trust, some patrons, some of the people I've made moderators on Twitch, and they basically said that no, people like that, they're in bad faith. They don't bring anything, and these are people who are solidly anti-censorship. So, I feel okay about that because I want people with minority or dissenting opinions to feel like they can speak and get a hearing, not, necessarily agreement, but a hearing. And that's harder to do when the comments get junked up with bad faith ranting. And I appreciate how it takes guts to put a sincere opinion in a public space, even under a pseudonym. And I want to give respect to that risk. And so this is why I'm asking you guys what I'm asking. Now, on that note, I want to read a comment from the game reviews thing, which I was very pleased with the feedback for that. It seems like I'm on the right track with that sort of thing. This comment made me feel old, but in a good way. It's from, who was it? Jeff Ninja Fox, regular commenter. I've thought long about how I'd want to run a game site if I were just ridiculously rich, and one of the aspects I've kept coming back to is the people saying they want objective game reviews. Then the games press wails. Reviews are inherently an opinion and can't be objective, which is willingly and intentionally missing the point. What I'd want to see in a review is a return to the old days of print magazines. And that's like print magazines. What he describes is how I reviewed games when I was reviewing games for websites. And it's like, this is out of vogue now. So what there is tell the reader about graphics, controls, sound, music, story from a technical standpoint. Does it flow? Does it make sense? Do characters seem consistent? After doing all of that, draw a conclusion if the game is worth the price of entry and if it's recommended. Does it meet fit, form, function of a video game? You don't have to like the message or direction a story goes into to say the music was great, the controls were responsive, the graphics were fantastic, and everything did fit together to make a fully functional experience. After that, the reviewer would be free to opine it for a bit on if they felt uncomfortable, if they felt it was an irresponsible game, if the message was disturbing, uplifting, breaking new ground, or whatever they want to discuss. Ideally, I'd split their review into two articles, the review and the op-ed, and have them both posted separately and clearly. What's particularly frustrating right now is that within these op-eds, the journalists seem to think they not only speak for their opinion, but have the pulpit to tell everyone else that they should or should not like it for the reasons they dictate. That's crossing the line. Keep an opinion and aspect focused on the writer themselves, not onto the project or the reader. Another thing I do in my dream review site is bring back the second opinion. If one person wants to go on a crusade of why X game is problematic, I want a second writer who loved the game to write a counterpoint article. And no scores, and so on and so forth. So thank you, Jeff Ninja Fox. It's interesting because those were almost the exact, it was graphics, gameplay, sound, story, and then general presentation were the categories. And then it was basically, I just, give a general number. I just added them all up, divided by 5, and gave gameplay a little bit of an extra boost, because to me, that's the most important thing. Unless, like, the music was astounding, like in Halo. But it's interesting that it's fallen so far from that. I will say I have seen second opinion articles. Just for the record, I have seen second opinion articles. It's interesting. I love the idea of splitting things into review and op-ed. It's amazing how many game sites shoot that down because they consider that too much content. And that's really crazy about how things have changed, because back in the day, more content was better. It meant people clicked on stuff more, you got more clicks. But that's just how much gaming has moved from staff writers who get paid a salary and you want them to do 2 pieces instead of 1, into more and more freelancing, where they're like, well, if you give me another article, I'm going to have to pay you for that, to the point that I put up on Twitter, hey, does anybody want an article on this? And I get no response. And I realize it's because I'm not saying it's free, which is a very sad state for gaming opinion. Because here's the thing I think is getting lost in all of this. First, the idea that you can't be objective, that everything is inherently opinion, is counter to a journalistic frame of mind. You can't get perfect objectivity, but you should strive for it. You know, for instance, during the Ubisoft Forward thing, when someone, when they announced, you know, the Scott Pilgrim game is coming back, I said, This is a very good game as a game. It plays really well. I do not like the Scott Pilgrim IP. And of course, everybody focused on the, you don't like Scott Pilgrim, why? But I said, this plays very well as a game. And what I find interesting is when you actually perform objectivity. You go, objectively, this is a good game. I don't like the IP. The game itself plays very well. People just focus on the subjective part of your opinion, which is it's not for me. Like, for people like, why don't you like Scott Pilgrim? I said it was a game that just made me feel like an object playing it. Like, the whole idea of Scott Pilgrim is a guy battling his, Ramona. I don't remember what Ramona is, but her evil exes. And okay, one's a girl, but most of them are guys, right? I am just put off by guys fighting over women. I find it petty and demeaning, and women can fight for ourselves. Thank you very much. We're not property. We're people. If you have an issue with how I'm carrying on with my ex, you take it up with me, not him. Like, what the fuck is this? I'm in the relationship with you, not him. Cut out the high school crap. That's why I don't like Scott Pilgrim. Other people relate to it very much. That's fine. Like I said, that was a subjective part. But this is what's been happening a lot. I'm finding that no matter how much I try to be objective, people are so primed for conflict that they react to the one thing that was subjective instead of all the stuff that wasn't. And I understand that, considering this comment actually explained to me why this is so. Because if people are primed, my freaking God, OBS is being a pain in the ass today. If people are primed for believing that people in the media are not striving for objectivity, they're not looking for it. They're not looking to react to objectivity because they think it's not there. This is why I'm commenting on this. Okay, Jeff, thanks very much for your comment. Oh my freaking God, OBS. Thanks very much for your comment. It's appreciated. Like it when people like give me things that sort stuff out for myself. Okay, everybody, have a really good weekend, a calm weekend, a quiet weekend, or a fun weekend. I'd settle for quiet right now. Oh my God. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching. Cough.